you believe that the UK and US government are one of the most corrupted in the world. So do you want to expand that?
Well, this is only based on my opinion, and I've got some of them are conspiracy theories. I understand that, but just if you're looking back through history and things like that, I mean, you can go back as far as the Napoleonic War and see that they were both being funded by, I think, the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. The rich create war to create money. That is my own opinion, and I could be wrong. But so if you look at America, for instance, they're one of the most powerful countries in the world, if not the. And I've actually got a story to tell. I won't say who. Somebody I know was actually in Afghanistan during the war. And they were in a opium compound, and they were firing at the Taliban, trying to get them out of this compound. And it shocked him because this guy I know has been in the military probably 20 plus years. And he said to me, the Taliban weren't interested. All they wanted to do was set fire to the opium fields. So he couldn't understand why the Taliban were doing this. So he said, next minute, all these opium fields are on fire. He said, and within minutes, 2 or 3 big American helicopters came over the compound and put the fire out with water from the helicopter. My personal, and it was my opinion at that time, and it was also his opinion afterwards, that the Americans were only in Afghanistan for opium. Again, that's a conspiracy. But there's never any smoke without a fire.
Yes.
I've got my opinions on the Twin Towers. Again, can't prove it, but I've got my opinions on that. If you look at, what's his name? The Colombian drug lord. What was his name?
Pablo Escobar.
You know what? Pablo Escobar. So he was paying the CIA, and that's proven. That's facts. He was paying the CIA millions and millions of dollars every week to smuggle cocaine into America. As soon as they didn't need him anymore, they locked him up. If you look at, have you ever seen the film American Gangster with Denzel Washington?
No, I don't think I did. Yeah.
So he plays, true story, he plays a guy called Frank Lucas, who was a black heroin dealer around the Vietnamese War. And so basically he flew over to Vietnam, and he was smuggling heroin in the coffins of dead soldiers back into America. And the American government knew about it. He was paying the American government as well as the Italian mafia. Soon as the Vietnamese War ended, they locked him up, put him in jail. So while he was bringing millions of dollars in every week for the government, they were fine. Soon as the Vietnamese War ended, they locked him up. And I believe that these governments are just getting smarter and smarter on finding more ways to make money. They're the most powerful people on the planet. And I believe they're also the most corrupt people on the planet. And every war that happens is for their own financial benefit. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I would also subscribe that. The UK government is also under fire. I think the main thing now is with the migration, there are a lot of women and children who apparently were abused, and that was never reported by the authorities and the press. And apparently it was not an accident; it was everything in purpose. So, as someone in the UK, based in Wales, is there anything that you want to add? Because we may not be able to see things or be aware of things that you are able because we're in the field.
So when you say women being attacked, do you mean British women being attacked by foreign migrants? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like usually with the sex intent or sexual intent.
Yeah, so that's something that I agree with Tommy Robinson. He's a big advocate for that. There's a lot of illegal immigrants that have came over here. I think there was one last week. Was there a young girl was murdered? I think stabbed to death. don't quote me on it. I think it was last week or the week before. If you follow these the paedophile hunters on Instagram, I mean, over the last few weeks, the amount of illegals that they've found trying to contact young women is unbelievable. And the government do know about it, and the statistics are there, but they certainly don't want to show that, because I believe if they do show that number, then Britain, we're very, very close to civil war as it is. But I think something like that might just push us over the edge. But this country's, pardon my French, but this country's fucked. It's just it shows you how how well this country's doing when all the rich people live abroad.
Yeah.
The proof's in
Yeah.
the pudding. This country and America, it's like a circus. It's absolutely like a circus. And then I've seen a few things over the last couple of months or the last couple of years where you look at, say, Russia, for instance, whether you disagree or agree with what he's doing. I don't really know a great deal about it. But, Eastern Europe, Asia, in Asia, you've got to do 3 or 4 years in the military before you can do anything else with your life. And, a lot of the time, Britain and America are rowing over TikTok fucking videos. It's sad. We've become a laughing stock. I think it's all an agenda. I think it's all a driven agenda by the powers that be to upset the apple cart, should we say? But it's working. Men can't be men anymore. If you want to be a sort of an old-fashioned man, shall we say, then you get deemed a misogynist or a transphobic or whatever. And I've always said I've got no problem with anybody myself. Be who you want to be. That, as long as you love yourself and be who you want to be, that's fine. But for me personally, I've got an issue when I'm seeing men who don't feel like they've got a place in the world, hanging themselves or asking for help, and then they're not getting it and coming home and killing themselves, which has happened in the town that I live in. A gentleman 2 years ago went to hospital asking for help, couldn't deal with life, didn't give him any help, and he went home and slit his own throat, killed himself. But yeah, I definitely think, there's an agenda being driven. Sorry, go on.
No, just say that's a serious concern, especially when there are people suffering and no one cares just because of their gender, skin color, nationality. Because let's say if a man would arrive here, so I don't know if this guy was heterosexual or not, but I would take it for granted. But let's say he's hetero, he's white, and he's British. If he would be hetero, and Arabic, that would be fine. They would help him. They'll help him. If he'll be gay, he'll be helped. Just because he ticks all the boxes, then he's seen as an enemy. And that's that whole idea that for centuries that person was privileged. That's absolutely rubbish. Because if probably we look at the family history of that man, of the family tree, they all struggled. Like my father, I never said that in the camera, but it's about time to say my father only could wear shoes once a week. So he would go to school, on his bare feet. That's a fact. So I cannot accept someone.
Sorry, where was your family from? Where are you located?
They are from the countryside of Portugal. So it's not
all right. Yeah.
It was not unusual. I'm talking about the 60s and 70s. But my mom would be like from a, let's say, privileged part of the village. Although the village was poor, but she was at the top of the pyramid, and my father was at the bottom. But he was good looking enough, and his his verbal skills made it to my mom, and good for both of them. But he couldn't wear shoes for most of his week, and he would bring like half a bread that would be his lunch. And now he comes and visits me here in Ireland. We go to nice restaurants. We have a couple of pints of Guinness, and it's so good. And it was just luck. It's not that because things are better for people like him, but that's a fact. So this whole conversation about privilege, it's absolutely nonsense, absolutely nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I listen to quite a lot of conversations on social media about something like white privilege. Um, I haven't had the hardest life in the world, but I've had some issues, growing up. I certainly don't feel as though I'm in a position of power or a position of privilege. I believe that, where I come from, a council estate, I live, where we live now, it's so diverse. We've got, you know, people from Asia, Africa, Eastern Europe, South America, they all live here. And, I get on with everybody. I love everybody. For me, it doesn't matter where you're from, what your skin color is, how you speak. If you're nice to me, I'm nice to you. But the one thing I want to stand by is my beliefs. So I speak a lot about mental health. Um, but the one thing I'm having a real difficult time accepting, rightly or wrongly, and I could be educated maybe, is when men are saying they're women and women are saying they're men. I've, like I said, be who you want to be happy. If you believe that you are who you say you are, then that's fine. But when somebody's telling me that I've got to accept that, I find that really difficult. If you looked at a red wall, if you were to say to me now, it's the sun's out in the sky right now, even though it's 8 o'clock at night, I'd disagree. I'd say, well, no, it's dark. And if you kept saying to me, oh, you've got to agree with me, otherwise I get offended, that's on you. That's your problem. That's not my problem. If you want to be offended, that's up to you. But for me, there's certain boundaries that I can't accept. Maybe I'll change those opinions in the future, but at this moment in time, that's probably the only one thing that sort of gets under my skin a little bit.
Yeah, and especially because they want to impose. Like, I don't have an issue if I speak to someone and let's say I look at him and he looks like John. Okay, so I approach him as he's John, and then he tells me he believes he's Jane, and it's fine. I can treat him as Jane from that moment. But what I don't
Yeah,
want is I need to ask before I approach him if he's John or Jane. If he comes across as John, I'm going to speak to him as he's John, and it's
of
it's
course.
that simple. I don't need to ask because otherwise, how can we interact with each other?
Yeah.
We cannot ask people's gender all the time. We cannot ask every single detail for every single conversation. Otherwise, what kind of interaction would we establish with others? It would be very, very poor to be just asking things that are unnecessary.
You made a good point before where you mentioned it 3 or 4 minutes ago, where you said that the countries are fighting with each other. So Britain, there's all these, rows and fighting and chaos. Same in America. It's a very dysfunctional country at this moment in time. You've got people on the left, you've got people on the right, you've got your trans movement, you've got the black rights movement. Everybody's sort of so racially divided at the moment. It's sad because I wasn't alive, 80 years ago, but the success that the countries have had with something like racism since then, we've come a long way. Feels like
Yeah.
we're going backwards. It feels like we're going backwards. Um, for me, like I said, if there was somebody who came in now and they identified as trans, I'd have no problem with it, as long as I'm not going to push my opinions on anybody in the world or my beliefs. My beliefs are my beliefs. I'll explain what they are, but if you don't believe them, that's fine. That's no problem. I can still be your friend. But I think we're at this point now where if you don't agree with everybody else in the world, then you become this, transphobe or misogynist or a racist and I'm not any of those things. I'm not any of those things. I love everybody. I want everybody to have a happy life, but the world's just so divided at the moment. It's a very, very dangerous, volatile place at the moment, I think.
Yes, yeah, especially because it's divided by those who claim that they want everyone together and to act as a team, and all they do is split people in tribes. Now, if they can let everyone think by themselves and have their own opinions and bring that to the table, and everyone will benefit from our own experience, that would be ideal. But it seems like everyone is split by things that are irrelevant. And I would say that, I don't know, your skin color is probably your thing number 10 or 12. I don't know. How does that matter? Maybe your skin color can be an issue if you stay longer under the sun. That's it. That's all that matters. Or maybe I'm more prepared, or maybe I'm weird like me. Like I'm actually quite tan myself, but I get burned very easily. So why does that matter? End of the day,
Exactly.
it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
Yeah, it's skin color. I've sort of got Celtic look. I've got slightly ginger hair and pale skin. It doesn't matter. As long as the thing is, like yourself in the 60s, the 50s, 60s, 70s, segregation was massive. You know, in America between black and white people, it was huge. I think segregation today, it's not so much in law because obviously there's no segregation in law anymore, not that I know of, but in communities and the segregation's massive. You know, it's it's sad. Like this, the trans movement, they sort of hate everybody if you don't accept them or accept their beliefs. Me and you could have a disagreement now, but still be friends. Just because you have
Yeah.
a disagreement with somebody doesn't mean you hate them. I don't hate nobody, and I imagine you don't as well. Just because you're having a disagreement doesn't necessarily mean you hate that person. And it's
No.
sad. It's sad because I can't see where this ends. I can't see where everybody just lives out the life that they want to live. There's so much chaos at the moment in the world. It's difficult to find peace. Social media, it's the devil. It's the fucking devil at the moment. There's, like I said, there's so much chaos. It's difficult to find peace.